How to create buying desire. Creating buying desire is a relatively straightforward process, but the most important part from an emotional standpoint is also the hardest part, and that is to turn off your ego. Most salespeople love to lead with their ego. They love to tell people why they should buy something, just like most of us love to tell people why they should do something. But if you can manage to turn off your ego, you can make a lot of money in sales. And for the purposes of this video, when we say ego, we are being very specific. Anytime you feel the need to get an idea out of your head and into somebody else's head, that is your ego. But to truly build buying desire, you need to turn that off. Believe it or not, this is something that was taught over 2,000 years ago by the Stoics, namely to focus on the shooting of the arrow, not the hitting of the target. And when you are telling your customers why you think they should buy, you are focusing on the sale, the outcome, the hitting of the target. But when you relax your ego and just focus on building up their buying desire, you are focusing on the shooting of the arrow. So how specifically do you do this? We'll start off with the easiest sale ever. Somebody buying something at a fast food place. The person working the register does zero selling. All they do is ask what the customer wants. This is the model that we'll be building off. Of course, whatever it is you are selling is probably a lot more expensive than a sack of burgers, and your customers are not nearly as ready to buy as somebody waiting in line at a fast food place. So the first step is to get the customer in the mindset where they are thinking about what they are interested in getting. Forget about getting any commitments or trying to close the sale that day. This is the magic of outcome independence, which is essentially the same thing as focusing on the shooting of the arrow and not the hitting of the target. And paradoxically, the less you focus on the hitting of the target, the outcome, the more likely you'll get it. So you've got a customer in front of you, and they are thinking about getting something that is somewhat related to all the stuff that you are selling. So ask a simple, open-ended, ideal outcome question. So, Mr. Customer, imagine the ideal situation. The price is right. The product is right. Everything makes sense. What does that look like? How do you imagine the ideal product? Once you get them in that ideal mindset, the rest is pretty easy, pretty straightforward. They have a vague idea of what they want. It is now your job to help them create a very vivid and detailed picture in their mind that represents what they want. How do you do this? By asking very simple either-or questions. For example, suppose you are selling cars and they only have a vague idea that they want a new car. They're not really even sure what kind of car they want. A good either-or question could be, so are you looking for more of an SUV or maybe something else? The main objective is to make it both easy and pleasant for the customer to think about these two options. The worst thing would be to expect them to have a fully formed, articulatable idea in mind of what it is they want. So suppose they say something like, not really an SUV. Another either-or question could be, so are you thinking of maybe a kind of a sports car or maybe more like a normal sedan? Again, an easy question to think about, an easy question to answer, a pleasant question to answer, and it's probably one of these two choices. Since every product is different, you can prepare for these kinds of conversations by doing some brainstorming. Just think of all the different permutations of the product or service that you are selling. Imagine a customer that only has a vague idea of what they want. Start very broadly and slowly get more and more specific with these either-or questions. Once you've got the specific product or service worked out, you can repeat this process, only do it next time on how they'll use the product or service. Again, you can do this, you can get ready for this by doing a lot of brainstorming on whatever product or service you offer, all the different ways that people use your product or service. Next, you can think of all the problems they'll be solving with your product or service. Think of all the things they can do with your product or service. Build up an ideal outcome, a vivid picture in the mind of your customers around these basic ideas. So after enough time, they'll have a vivid idea in their mind of their ideal product. They'll have a vivid imagination in their mind of how they'll use their ideal product. They'll have a vivid imagination in their mind of all the problems they'll solve with their ideal product. And while you are doing this, while you are helping them build those vivid imaginations in their mind. In the back of your mind, you'll be going through your inventory of your product or service. So basically, you'll take their vivid imagination of their ideal product and you'll be matching it to whatever products you have to offer. Pay close attention to any specific language or phrases they use while describing their ideal product and the ideal way that they'll use their ideal product. And use these same phrases and language patterns to describe your own product or service that you're offering to them. Now, this can be complicated because you are going to be doing most of the thinking. The hardest part is keeping your ego locked up so you don't tell the customer what they should buy. But if you do some brainstorming on the product or service that you offer and you keep your ego locked up, you can build a very strong buying desire in the minds of your customers, which means you'll be making a lot more sales and you'll be able to make a lot more money. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, and comment. To learn more, please visit mindpersuasion.com.